Rajiv Ghai to a conclave of foreign military chiefs in New Delhi. He spoke to them on Operation Sindoor and he said that there is a historical background that needs to be touched upon, and he did. Now, according to Ghai, the problem started in late 80s, obviously in Jammu and Kashmir, and he said since then 28,000 terrorist attacks have happened, 15,000 civilians have been killed, and over 3,000 security people have died. He was obviously referring to the unending Pakistan's proxy war into Jammu and Kashmir. Now, nobody asked Ghai, but let me ask this question: that why is it that the Indian Army continued doing counter-terror operations for decades without getting any results? Why is it that the Indian Army did not think of doing something entirely different, which could have been done, can still be done, to end Pakistan's proxy war in Jammu and Kashmir? Since Ghai would not answer this question, let me answer this question. Yes, the trouble started in Jammu and Kashmir in 1989, and the next year in 1990, the then Army Chief General Rodrigues, he inducted large number of soldiers in Jammu and Kashmir theatre. His successor, General Bipin Joshi, who assumed office in 1993, in my assessment, he made two big mistakes. The first was, he never asked the political leadership what is the end state. End state is important. Whenever the army is used or military is used, it should be told what is the job, how long it has to do the job, and what are the results expected of the army from that job. All this was not asked. So as far as the army was concerned, this operation became open-ended for the army. And the political leadership was happy about it because it gave them the opportunity to not seriously consider the political solution to the Jammu and Kashmir problem. And the second big mistake by General Joshi was that he decided to raise a Rashtriya Rifle force, which is a specialized counter-terror operation force in large numbers from within the army's resources. In principle, this was a good idea because the counter-terror operations and preparing for a hot war, which is the main job of the Indian Army, are operations which are as different, as dissimilar as chalk and cheese. So what the army chief had in mind was that the officers who are involved in the preparation for the hot war, they should not get deviated or deflected from their main task by doing this counter-terror operations, and he thought, let's have a specialized force doing this. And in his assessment, the RR will not have a job which is a very long job, and very soon it will all be over in Jammu and Kashmir, and RR will be done with, and it will merge with the main force. But the problem what happened was that the Indian Army officers who were reluctant to come to the RR from their main job, and the reason for that was they were not sure how their professional profile for promotions would be affected by a tenure in RR. They were held by an order from the army chief which said that coming to the RR, by coming to the RR, the professional profile for promotions of the officers will not be affected. In fact, it got enhanced. But more of this RR in a while. Then there was another Chief General N.C. Wij. He in 2004, he fenced the line of control with Pakistan. Now nobody fences an active military line, but he did that. And there were two consequences of that. One was, as far as the Indian Army was concerned, now it was to do counter-terror operations within its own territory, and because of that, what happened was unknowingly a defensive mindset set in, which is what is called the Maginot mentality. And I believe that when you have a defensive mindset, a soldier's fighting spirit, that offensive spirit, it gets killed. But so be it, he put the fence there. Then there was another Chief General J.J. Singh, who in 2007, he got the Defense Minister A.K. Anthony to release the Indian Army's first sub-conventional warfare doctrine for counter-terror operations. Now, by doing this, a job of the army, the counter-terror job, which was perhaps a secondary job, a tertiary job, or a side job, suddenly became the main job of the Indian Army. And its main job, which was fighting for hot war, it took a back seat. And the army was happy about it. They had no problems. Why? Go back to what I was talking about, RR. The RR suddenly realized, the officers who came to RR after this initial hesitancy, that actually they were getting a lot of visibility in this job. This was giving them visibility, it was giving them power, it was giving them status, it was giving them medals, and it was giving them promotions. And more than anything else, they could lord over the Kashmiris, something that they could not do sitting on the line of control, working on their main job, which is fighting for war. And this is the reason that 15 Corps headquarters in Srinagar, which is at the heart of counter-terror operation, suddenly became a place of hot postings. Everybody wanted to be in 15 Corps headquarters. And all the senior officers, they wanted to be there. As a consequence of that, the tenure of the commander 15 Corps, which was 2 years, it was brought down to 8 to 9 months because of the line of officers who wanted to be 15 Corps commanders. Everybody wanted to be in no war, no peace situation. In fact, when I see on the Wikipedia the profile of the DGMO Rajiv Ghai, he was commissioned in 1989, the year the trouble started in Jammu and Kashmir. He has commanded 15 Corps. Most of his tenure in the service has been in Jammu and Kashmir theatre, and he's had practically all the medals that can be got in the Jammu and Kashmir theatre. Now, here is a point that I want to make. All this was fine, but it did not help the nation. And this is the book that I wrote. This book I wrote in 2000, which is 25 years ago. It is called 10 Myths That Shape India's Image. It's about 10 myths, 10 issues that I have taken up and I have explained them. Let me tell you the title of two such myths, or what I have explained. I have argued in one chapter, 10,000 words, that the army cannot end Pakistan's proxy war in Kashmir unless it builds credible conventional war fighting capabilities, something that it still does not have today. Then in another chapter titled South Asia is a nuclear flashpoint, I argued it is not a nuclear flashpoint. This is a myth of it being a nuclear flashpoint, because in all the wars that we have seen, as far as the western sector is concerned, our west, Pakistan has never been defeated there. That means at the operational level of war, it equals the Indian military. And if indeed it was not powerful enough militarily, then it would have ended the proxy war by itself. So all this talk about a nuclear war, that even today the officers keep talking about, that look, there is a conventional space for a conventional war below the nuclear overhang, I don't think it makes any sense. Because why would Pakistan use nuclear weapons when it can stand up in conventional war to the Indian military?